Hi, my name is Brenda Peirce, and this is my writing development plan. I actually did one a while ago, and I wasn't very happy with it. It wasn't very meaningful, and I didn't really see a lot of practicality to it. So I actually redid it, and something came up recently with the Literacy Volunteers of America. So I'm actually going to incorporate this along with some time that I'm spending with the Literacy Volunteers of America. I will soon be working pretty heavily with them. So for the introduction, one exciting personal and professional development for me, and one of the reasons I've been sort of MIA lately, is my new association with the Literacy Volunteers of America. Charity work has always been important to me personally, but this connection allows me to share some of my educational and professional background as well. Recently I joined as a volunteer and will be serving on the communications committee. Soon I hope to accept a board position as well. In speaking with my liaison there, I learned that their clients and students not only work with literacy improvement, but also work with writing development. And it occurred to me that I could lend some help in this area, and I'm really excited for this new venture. I decided that I would use this as an opportunity not only to contribute and help with what I'm most passionate about, which of course is writing, but also to reformulate my writing development plan for actual use. So I'm going to go ahead and outline a few of the ideas and approaches. First and foremost, my objective. The stated objective of the plan is simple. It's just having participants from all levels develop a piece of writing from ongoing journal entries and conferences over the course of several months, or if it were a school, it could be a semester, learning blocks of time, what have you. Participants will write periodically about that which is most important to them, things that they're most passionate about. And I think that that always makes for truer and much more meaningful writing, and I think it certainly motivates the student as well. Participants would keep a journal, make several entries each week. Over the course of time, students meet with their volunteers about their writing and start to develop a thematic approach to the overarching piece of writing. An example of this might be an ESL student could talk about their journey living in a foreign country, an older student pursuing his GED might talk about his struggles or his newfound love of learning, and anything like that. I mean, anything that would make it more personal and meaningful for them. The volunteer's biggest challenge would be to draw out from the participant what is most meaningful to them, and then from there I think everything would really flow. My sustained plan would involve having students create a piece of writing from long-term journal writing that they could share at the end of the session. That would really be the goal. This would not be an easy task, considering the various social, cultural, educational, and age backgrounds of the participants. It's important that there be a connecting thread by which all students and participants can refer back to. This would include a general outline of expectations for the writing, to include, but not limited to, topic that is meaningful to the student, so just something that the student is passionate about, writing piece pulling from specific journal entries decided at conferences. So that's where we would work with the students and the participants to kind of narrow down their focus. Evidence of several drafts, edits, revisions, and overall growth. Really the goal is not so much for one student to compare to another, but really just to show personal growth and improvement along their own journey. Students are expected to show improvement appropriate for their individual level, not that there is the challenge, and I think the caveat. An approximate length of 3 to 5 pages. Didn't really want to limit anybody, but we thought that there should be some sort of guideline. The idea is not to create a perfect draft for publication. I think that would be unrealistic, but rather to begin the writing process in a meaningful and positive way. For many of these participants, getting by day to day is really the main objective. It's what they're all about. Writing, not so much. So therefore, if we as teachers can bring the process of communication and connection forward, and we can begin that in a positive way, students can draw from that for the rest of their lives, and certainly the rest of their time at the LVA. It's pretty exciting. Another mark of consistency in the plan is how the volunteers teach and train. Since a major component of the LVA mission mirrors many in our own programs, such as the National Writing Project, the connection was instant. In the main writing project and the national writing project, a major philosophy is teach the teacher. The same is true for the LVA. Not only do participants come to the table with varying degrees of education, so do the volunteers. So it's important that we be able to calibrate and bring everybody together, make sure everybody's on the same page. Some volunteers have advanced degrees and have taught professionally. Some have never stepped foot in a classroom. They're just offering their time. So we have to make sure that their time that they're giving is also valuable, and we need to train them appropriately. So a main and hugely important component, of course, is train the trainer through the LVA. This allows for calibration among volunteers to ensure consistency of methods and approaches. It isn't really realistic to expect perfection here. Clearly, the training components must be flexible enough to connect with every volunteer at every level so that she may take an outline back to her students and implement accordingly. And that's really the goal. And we have to make sure that whatever we give these volunteers is meaningful and useful first to them so that they can certainly use it with their participants. Among many of my goals, and I have a few, I wish to become heavily involved with the Train the Trainer program through the LVA. The workshop, I'll give a brief outline of that. I've tried to keep it age and level specific. Although you can imagine that would be a huge challenge with people from any number of different social, economic, and cultural backgrounds. The scheduling workshop would be about halfway through the semester, learning block or session. It would include several volunteers specializing in ESL, literacy development geared toward older students, and literacy development geared towards continuing education students, trying to hit every age and every developmental stage along the way. Students would come with journals, feedback from conferences, and an outline or an idea for their writing. Each student would meet with a volunteer to formulate a plan for that writing and make a time to meet regarding completion. So the key here is follow-up, and that's crucial. If students don't have a reasonable expectation that they will have something to present, a product at the end of this, it really becomes less meaningful and might not motivate them to keep writing. So within each specialty area, volunteers would assist in stations. One station would focus on idea and content, which is, for me, I think everything. I think it's important to start writing from that place of yes, where you can develop an idea, talk about something that's meaningful to you, and begin that human connection. From there on, it's all about technicals. It's all about grammar and flow and content and all of that. But I do think that has to come secondary in the process for a more meaningful writing process. So the second station, of course, would be technical, grammar, flow, punctuation, style. This station would certainly take long due to the logistics of covering so much. The last station, very quick, it would be devoted to setting up time for conferences for completion. So really setting up a time to wrap everything up, and I think that's important for follow-through. Students would be reminded that there would be a time to share stories and writing in a seminar night or portfolio night or exhibition or whatever works for you at that time. Students can show their best work, certainly only that which they feel comfortable with. We all know, and certainly in my experience with journals, is that it can be profoundly personal and something that you want to keep confidential at times. So certainly would be something that would only be shared by the student, whatever they feel comfortable with. So, and that I think that presenting it in such a way, I think would also motivate the student to know that there is some cherry on the sundae at the end where they can really get some praise for their work. So this is part two. As I noticed the tape on the camera or whatever, digital, kind of ran out. So we'll start again on this section. And it is actually the last section. And here I just talk a little bit about the research approach, research basis, and the approach. So the book that I used, and I was fortunate enough to finally have read Room 109 by Rich Kent. I was so pleased to see that he and I are on the same page with respect to writing. We write in very much the same style and manner and communicate accordingly. More than anything, I loved Rich's honesty and accessibility. He indeed made that human connection, which is to me what writing and teaching are 100% about. So loved it. He was able to take what could have been a dry and step-by-step or how-to subject matter and make it very personal. I felt connected to Rich as a teacher, to his students, even the hardcore mainers, and respected so much his attempts. He did not try to hide his mistakes and allowed the reader to walk in his shoes as a man and a teacher, really. Didn't try to hide his mistakes. The best thing about the book was the realistic portrait he painted about how he tried to connect with the students. And some of those students initially seemed galaxies away from himself. Somehow, though, he did it. He connected successfully, even with the reluctant writers, the socio-economically challenged, and even the bad kids, if you will, the miscreants. He got through to all of them. That, after all, is our biggest challenge as teachers. So I felt that if Rich could do this, I could attempt it on a smaller and surely less successful scale within my little project at Literacy Volunteers. So in room 109, Rich offered some pretty useful advice about responding to writing. Now, he intended this for portfolios. I kind of see this as more transcendent. I think it's really applicable for any kind of journal responses. I think that if you respond to, or rather writing responses to journals, to portfolios, to anything. And so this is pages 136 and 137. Rich writes, "The golden rules of reading and responding to a classmate's portfolio," or I say writing in general. "Be kind and conversational. Don't act like a know-it-all." Sounds like good advice. "Point out strengths. Focus on the strongest, most effective paper," or you can say part of the paper, or journal entry. "Comment on the overall work. Relate it to your experience within the portfolio or the overall work. Make simple suggestions." I mean, 40-page how-to manual on how to improve one paragraph, nobody will absorb that. That won't help anybody. Make simple suggestions for improvement. How are their revisions? Did the editors make good suggestions? I think that's important. Within the Literacy Volunteer, we want to be sure that the students are getting as much out of the teachers as the teachers are getting from the students and so forth. We want to be sure that even though they are volunteers, that they're really and truly impacting these students. The technical stuff, if they make a lot of mistakes, let them know how. And lastly, Rich says, "I always find it easier to type my responses while I'm reading." Well, I'm more of a red pen kind of gal, but the bottom line is what he's saying is it might be easier to kind of revise or edit and revisit work as you go. So I'm sure that I'm being a little overly aggressive and optimistic with my plans and my goals. What else is new? Things will undoubtedly get fouled up along the way and plans will change. Too many human factors to work in, but that's okay. That makes me human. That makes me a new teacher, and it means that I care. The upside is that I do have a goal for both my students and myself. That, most importantly, is the place to start. So that's it. That's my writing development plan. I hope very much to be able to use this. I'm extremely excited about it. I'm extremely excited about my new venture with this this charity, and I think it's going to be a good marriage. I'm very, very excited, and that's it. So thanks very much for listening in.